Welcome to the Leaderonomics show. We have a great show today. We've got a great guest all the way from Shanghai, Nina Dankfort. Nina's the Chief Learning Officer of GE in Asia Pacific. We're going to welcome her to the studios. Nina, welcome. Welcome to our show.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, Chief Learning Officer. What do you do? I mean, what's the role of a Chief Learning Officer?
A Chief Learning Officer has, in fact, two very big tasks. One is for a company to really make sure that we develop the leadership, that we have successors in place, and that people that are in the company really grow professionally and from a personal level as well. The second part is to work with the partners of the company, and that's the business side. So with suppliers, with partners, with government, and to really work to make the business relationship successful. Okay.
Now, what couple of I mean, especially in this time where financially there's a lot of issues. The whole climate has suddenly become a sort of climate of uneasiness. Many people say that training or learning is actually anti-productivity, because when you have learning and training, people actually are taken away from their productive jobs into a training setting where they're basically wasting time. I mean, in many words. What's your view on that?
Well, you really have to look very critically in difficult times like this, whether you spend that time wisely. So re-emphasizing that whatever time you spend is actually going to be an investment for the future, and to really make sure if I spend a day in a training class, then afterwards I will have productivity increase of about 10%.
But and how do you do that?
Well, you can do that by measuring the outcome of the training.
But I mean, if you look at training and measurements, I mean, many people say it's superficial, and it's really, how do you measure training?
Well, you measure it at two levels. One, do you learn the skill or the capability that you were going to learn? And that's easy. You can do it with a test or just have people demonstrate that they can do it. And the second part is to really say, do I actually increase my productivity? Those are simple measurements as well. If you, for a simple, say, if you are learning a person to do a presentation skill better, and instead of spending a whole day preparing for a meeting, they do now 2 hours, that's a productivity gain that, after two of these presentations, you already are in the plus.
But I mean, in this tough economic situation, I mean, most companies are cutting back on training for one. But how, I mean, is it the right thing to continue to do training, or would it be more appropriate to focus on sales and focus on areas that drive direct productivity instead of more of a kind of a flow productivity?
Well, I think in GE, our view is really that even in these tough times, you really need to keep working for the future as well. So definitely you need to look very critically at your expenses, and you may cut some training that is nice to have.
So has GE cut its training budget? I mean, in light
not
of
the budget itself, but we're very much critical where we spend it and how we spend it, and we are becoming much more creative. So we're looking at technology, virtual training, much on-demand learning online. So not the e-learning in the traditional way, but different ways, is to say, if we spend the money, let's spend it in a way that we have guaranteed success for the future.
Okay. So in essence, GE has not cut its training even in these tough times?
No, not the training budget. We do look at other costs as well, the travel to go to a training, where you stay, etc. So
some of those have been tweaked?
And those have definitely been tweaked, because you have to live in the economy that is out there. So it will be going more to the countries instead of coming to the major center in Shanghai. So we will adapt to what we need to have, which is good. I mean, I like this challenge of looking at what you're doing and doing it in a better way next time.
Reinventing learning.
Yes.
But you also talked a little bit about leadership development. What exactly is leadership development, and how does GE develop its leaders?
Well, leadership development is building leaders, and there are many million ways of saying what a leader is, but in our view in the company, we say a leader is somebody that can motivate and engage people to help them drive to their mission and their vision of the company. So it's a lot about people skills. And it's part in the business skills. So when we do leadership development, we focus on those parts. 60% around how do you get your people engaged and motivated, and then another 40% about how do I manage the business better.
Okay, fair enough. Has the philosophy of leadership development changed? In the Welsh era, it's very much productivity based. In the email era, with the new CEO coming on board the last couple of years, has the philosophy in general changed?
I think the philosophy of building a leader for the future has not changed, because Jack did that the same way. What you teach those, the capabilities that leaders need to have, that has changed.
Okay.
We're focusing much more on making sure that leaders have a learning agility, that they keep learning, whereas for Jack there was a lot of capacity and competencies building. Now we really say it's unpredictable what's going to happen in 10 years. So can we build leaders that learn very fast?
Okay.
So in that way, some of the way that we develop leaders has definitely changed.
Okay, okay. Do you have specific examples on some of these changes that have taken place? I mean, you gave me that one example on learning, learning agility.
Yeah.
Is there others that have somewhat changed?
Well, things we've put in place, for instance, is scenario planning.
Okay.
Or developing a peripheral view.
Okay.
We're putting in place now, how do you build resilience in yourself as a leader? That you stay optimistic and upbeat even in those difficult times that we have now. So we're really looking at those kind of things to help our leaders position themselves better for, when we get out of this curve.
Right. You talked a little bit about measuring training early on. And you said GE does measure training. Is there, I mean, do you see a correlation between the training that you do and the results that's coming out right now?
Not as direct as that.
Okay.
When you do sales training, it's pretty easy. You can measure how much more they sell. But for leadership, that is much more longer-term planning.
Okay.
We do see a direct connection with, for instance, retention. That leaders that have been developed and have been to programs actually retain their people better.
Okay.
So that's an immediate gain that you have from leadership development, and we can have numbers for that.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about this whole new space called talent management. You've got leadership development. It's one piece. It seems like talent management is just another word for leadership, or is it? I'd like to know what your views are on this whole area of talent management.
I like the word because it does have a broader sense of what it all is about. If you talk leadership development, the perception out there is much it's training. And when you look at talent development, you take it the whole breadth of what it is. It's the person in the job. It's the person that can do the job. It's the person that may do the job if you gave them enough help. So you have a much broader spectrum of what you do with talent development versus just purely leadership development. So I'm very much in favor of expanding our role and not being so narrowly labeled with the training programs.
And has GE embraced this whole talent management philosophy somewhat?
Well, I tend to believe we were doing that already. There's a very strong partnership already has been between the L&D function and the HR function, where HR was doing a big part of that talent management, and then L&D was doing the training. We've even now, since our CLO for the whole of GE is Susan Peters, and she's actually managing both Crotonville as well as the global O&S functions. So we actually put the two teams together. We meet together. We have projects together. So I think that we're already for the last 4 years really putting that into place without the name.
Right. I mean, part of talent management, I guess, is this whole retention piece. And if you look in the last couple of years, there's a lot of media stories on GE leaders leaving the company. What's your take on the retention in GE and how GE is coping with it, and what are some initiatives that you guys are doing out there to address this issue?
Well, leaders have always left GE, and that's why we've got this nickname from the outside press that we're the CEO factory.
That's right.
If you look at what is the top 100 Fortune 500 companies, many of them are being led by ex-GE leaders. So it's always been the case. People that work in GE want to be challenged, want to be something new, and if they don't find it with us, then they'll find it somewhere else. So it's been part. Numbers-wise, if you really look at the numbers, and I can talk more about Asia numbers because I know that we are below the numbers, the retention numbers for other multinationals. So we're doing okay. Do we want to do better? Yes. So we've put things in place like really helping our leaders be much more in touch with their people, knowing them, connecting with them. And that has really generated some great results.
Let's go back to this whole technology piece. You mentioned that GE is embracing some new technologies in terms of the learning space in itself. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, what sort of technologies and how?
Well, we have in place already telepresence, which is a really live telepresence, which is a really very live experience of, it's like you sitting in front of me at a table. So that's been a great improvement over the video conferencing, which always has a little bit of a shaky thing. But we also have put some new stuff in place that we're like blogs and learning communities that we're trying out as well. Lots of them is just trying, but we're getting there.
Okay, Nina, let's talk a little bit about technology when we get back from the break.